Hi everybody, this is Paris from Rapid Visual. I just wanted to give you a quick update on 3 things that we're working on and welcome your feedback as the workshop facilitator community members who are using Rapid Visual in workshops. So here's a quick little update from what we're developing right now. First, talk about a new feature called import from an idea. And basically, if you go into the homepage of the app, you'll see from an idea, you can create your business model. You can either generate from an idea, and basically we used to do that with more advanced prompting through ChatGPT. Now that's all gone and it's embedded into the system. So you can simply type your idea and you can see an example, a self-serve lemonade stand, blah, blah, blah. And that's already something that I created. And then you can generate the business model by clicking on that. You'll wait a couple of minutes, maybe less, and then you'll get a business model to edit. If you don't have an idea, you can come up with one using the agents, but I'll leave that to another video. Going back to this one of the cool things about it is that many times people may create a business model during a workshop situation. And I love doing this on posters, the traditional analog way. And when they create the business model with the stickies, if they were to import the business model using the existing one, so that you click on import and then it asks you to put the file, basically what it will recreate will be the same business model they created with usually single word stickies or too many stickies, and then they have to edit a lot more. What I found quite fascinating, having run a few workshops recently with the generate from an idea feature, is that I ask people to explain to me their business model out loud, and they present the poster that they created. And once they've done that, I've been recording the whole time, and then I use that transcript to basically put it into a prompt that says, can you take this transcript and give me the final business model in the language of the business model canvas? And I take the output of that, paste it in here. It's going to be an essay, click generate business model, and you get something nearly perfect. It's an interesting way to explore these features to see what is the fastest way I can onboard users in a workshop to start using AI. And what I love to do is still use a poster, get them to create their first business model that way. But then within 5 minutes of presenting the business model to me, I'm able to bring it into Rapid Visual and then from there move on to do other cool things. With that, let's go back to the second thing I want to show you today, which is a feature a few of you have been asking and we've now built in, which is connecting existing customer profiles. What does that look like? If we go to the example, I have Lemon Pop. This is the business model of a lemonade stand business. And I have tech-savvy millennials and I have local event enthusiasts. But if I were to look through my customer segments, I have this yoga and fitness enthusiast that may be interesting to this particular business model as well. Or maybe I created it and now I want to connect the same customer profile, but to a different business model, maybe a different iteration of it. We don't want to be recreating these because maybe you've spent time to refine it. So what I want to do is add and say yoga enthusiasts. So this is now creating the sticky. And once the sticky is made and I click on the sticky and I go to the circle to create the customer segment, you'll see a new option pop up, which is either to create a new customer segment or to connect an existing. I click on connect existing, yoga and fitness enthusiasts. And now this is already pre-configured. So when I click back on it again and I go to my customer profile, here it is. While on this page, the last update is a very anticipated and nearing completion interview module. We're now on version 2, and I just want to show you the prototype. This is not live yet, but just to give you a glimpse of what's coming. So what you're looking at here is a bit of a different UI where we have now highlighted the top 3 jobs, pains, and gains with a blue outline. You can still move them and change their order. And another thing that's been added now is that you can actually see typed out functional, social, emotional, so on and so forth. The other thing is that you can just directly click and start to edit as opposed to click on the pencil. So that's done. And we have the ability to decline this or accept it. And this is the part that you need to polish the profile of the customer once you've landed on this page. And let's say we've done all that. We've created our customer value scenes. Everything is ready. We have the value scene of how to test this particular idea. The next thing I want to do is now go into the interview module. Up above, there is 2 interviews because we're still working on the alpha and beta version. This is the new one. It's going to be a bit clunky, but we're still testing. And I'd love to hear your feedback on this because there's still a lot of opportunity to make some changes. So the first thing I want to do is create a new interview cohort, and I'll call this Yoga Folks, and I'll just create that interview cohort. And once I'm in, this is again all work in progress, it says add interviews to this cohort to capture what customers say. Each interview holds details about one person and their perspective, and as you collect more, the AI will help you cluster insights across all the interviews and spot patterns that matter. And that's the point of this module, is that you run your interviews within Rapid Visual, and then the AI is working with you in parallel to give you insights dynamically. Every time you finish an interview, what's going on? Do we detect a pattern? Is there something that is interesting? What's the aggregate profile of the people you've interviewed? And so simplifying that process of synthesizing the data. But what I want to ask you about is what's on the right. To get ready to start interviews, there's a few things that need to happen. So we're creating this checklist that you'll be able to actually click into and do those jobs. One is set up survey questions. A lot of times people want to ask maybe 3, 4, 5 questions that are maybe quantitative, closed questions, maybe even open-ended questions at the beginning of an interview, given the chance to talk to a particular customer segment, especially in B2B. And so we want to give the ability to also capture that data. And so it's a very lightweight survey module, but the focus of doing the interview in this conversation-based learning approach is not to do a survey. Then again, we want to be able to record something. So you'll be able to create a survey within Rapid Visual. The second part is clustering jobs, pains, and gains. And what that means is, and I don't know if all of you are using clustering, but when you're doing an interview using conversation-based learning, you go through the jobs, the pains, and the gains, and you're asking the question, is this you? And that's what the interview module is made to do, is to reveal the job, and then you have the conversation with the trigger question never changing. Is this you? And then they'll say yes, and they'll say no, and they'll say yes, but, and you'll edit. And everything you're doing is being captured in events. So the AI knows the changes you're making, and that's how it will be able to synthesize all the data. And then eventually you ask them to rank and so on and so forth. But what I've done hundreds of times is I've asked my teams to cluster the jobs. So say, for example, we have 3 jobs that are related to financial matters, another 2 jobs that are related to health. So whatever that cluster might be, there's usually 3, 4, 5 clusters tops that represent that conversation that's happening across those jobs, sometimes across those pains and gains as well. So what we like to do is that we're creating now this clustering capability where in the backstage, you'll be able to create your clusters. In fact, we're building it so that the AI can suggest the clusters for you, and then you can edit. So you could have, for example, these 3 jobs and this pain related to one particular thing, which might have to do with budgeting. And so you go through this part of the interview as a cluster, not separately as jobs, pains, gains. And when you finish this cluster, you ask that golden question is, in the context of what we just discussed, what am I missing? And they may add other jobs that relate to budgeting. And you go, thank you, move on to cluster B, which may be, for example, operations. So usually a cluster will have a 1 or 2 word description that kind of encapsulates what the conversation is going to be over the next 1 or 2 minutes about these jobs, pains, and sometimes gains. And so we're building it in such a way where you will be able to create these clusters. What do you think? Is this something you do? Is this something you love, hate? Just give us some feedback on this. Is there a different way you would approach it? Really open to listen to what you guys have to say about this. That will be the second thing, clustering your jobs, pains, and gains. The third thing will be to select customer value scenes. And so these are the value scenes that you will bring in to this interview. Let's say you design 10 customer value scenes. Which are the ones that you're going to actually be exploring in this next interview or this interview cohort? And so you choose the ones, and over the course of interviewing, you might say, this one we're not going to check anymore, so you can unselect it and then continue with the rest. Because once you're in an interview, the system basically, you just click next and it takes you to the next thing you need to do. As automated or semi-automated as possible, so you don't have to think and you just have to listen and conduct the interview. This next one is one that Christian Doll and I are writing in our How to Know Which Ideas to Pursue book, which hopefully will be released at the end of this year, where we basically talk about conversation-based learning. And it's a concept that we call listen fors. Listen fors are the things that we're intentionally trying to listen for in case they come up in an interview situation. To give you an example, if somebody you asked them about their car, there's a job about their car, and the first thing they said was the tires. And then the second interview, the first thing they said was the tires. There must be something there. Why is the first thing that coming up in their mind their tires and not anything else? So it's these interesting things that we should be listening for. And as we learn about these things, we can document them and add these listened fors so that also the AI is listening for them. How many people said tires when prompted with this job? That might be an interesting insight. So there's going to be a lot more explanation and content around this, but it's something that I'd love your reaction. If you have one, please feel free to share. If you've used a different way to explain listen fors, or if you've used it as something else that's adjacent to this, happy to learn more. Then you have your interviewees. So add your first interviewee. So let's just go ahead and add myself. Let's say I'm going to interview me. And then we have basically one interview that's planned. And when you're ready to begin this interview, you simply go find the name of the interviewee and click run. We're not planning on making this a full to-do calendar management system. People have their own systems. That's our conviction on this. But we want to be able to have a list of the people that they've secured interviews with. And that basically creates the container where all the data will fit into once they conduct the interview. So right now, we're not planning on connecting with Zoom or Teams or Calendly or all that kind of stuff. We're keeping it as lean as possible and iterating as we go. And the final one is the customization of the welcome screen. So basically, this is where you start the interview, you click run, and then the first thing you will see will be this screen that welcomes participants. And in that screen, you might have certain language that relates to their particular segment, but you will also probably have some recurring context around what is a job, a pain, and a gain. How does this interview run? What are we going to do in this interview? So we'll have a little bit of a visual script for people to share on their screen and say, as we get ready for this interview, let's spend a couple of minutes to tell you how this will go. So we're planning on having a pre-made template of a welcome screen with the ability for you to edit that welcome screen. And again, this part open to feedback. What would you like to see on the welcome screen? What would we be missing? What are the types of things you want beyond functionality of making it a full-on landing page? We want to keep it as lean and simple as possible, but what are some of the things that you think would be exciting for us to build in to the welcome screen? And once you're set up with all this, you're ready to begin your interviews. That's all I wanted to cover with you today. It's been a while since we contacted you, and so we figured let's give you an update on what we've been working on. There's a lot more exciting developments coming up in Rapid Visual. If you are on our list and you haven't joined as a facilitator, but you have a workshop coming up, please hit reply, let us know. We'll enable you to use Rapid Visual in your workshop. And in the next couple of weeks, I plan to create a video to show you how I use Rapid Visual in a workshop. How do you bridge that analog digital plus AI gap to run a 1, a 2, or a 3-day session on innovation? Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you soon.